All right, welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us. Dave Gurgles-Gurgley with another very, very difficult Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge there. And congratulations to Lenny the Chronic, our winner. How many gift certificates have you given him to landlubbers, Louie?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I can't even keep track. That's why I skew them away.
Yeah. He's like the fat kid when he first came out with fan voting. Not to reference his weight, because we love Lenny, but where you had like 1,000 ballots for the All-Star game that he picked out of the garbage and just put his mother's knitting needle through them all. We welcome to the show. This is great, man. I love that he's doing the video portion of it also. And one of our favorites, and I'm going to miss his calls on the radio. I'm still a radio guy, although I'm more reluctant to turn it on, since we also heard these fatal words, which are an unfortunate byproduct of the business. Lubie, Defo, can you come down and see us right after the show? And they say they're going in another direction. Like, well, we could go there, right? I can change. I'm adaptable. I mean, call me the human Gumby. But this was, in my opinion, obviously as atrocious a move as when they let Tommy Hutt go from the television broadcast for a while. Glenn Geffner, we're going to miss you on the Marlin calls. It was among the lone incentives to tune in to Marlins baseball or your calls of the game. How are you, Glenn? Good to see you, my friend.
Well, it means a lot to hear you say, Defo. I really appreciate it. I've missed you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm enjoying life after baseball, or at least life between gigs in baseball a little bit right now. I'm teaching at Florida Atlantic University, teaching a sports broadcasting class. And I started a little business where I'm doing one-on-one play-by-play coaching for high schoolers and college students, young professionals who are hoping to get into the business. You can go to my website, glengeffner.com, and learn more. But it's been incredibly rewarding. I've always, over the years, really loved the mentoring part. I've gotten into teaching at FAU in recent years. Now to do this, be able to reach people all across the country, it's been a blast.
You'd be a good guy to do this because, I mean, one thing you pick up from a guy right away on a broadcast is whether or not he's sincere. And, from our many conversations when we were allowed to speak to you before, a certain other edict came down, that all of a sudden you were off limits, man. And we missed our baseball conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have known that was the beginning of the end a couple of years ago when all of my appearances on our flagship radio station had to be approved, and we couldn't get approval for that.
Never, yeah.
Maybe in retrospect, yeah.
3 a.m, we want to talk to Glenn Geffner. Oh, no, we can't have him get up at that hour in the morning.
Glenn's happy to do it on opening day or whatever. Yeah, I can't do it. Sorry.
No, it was always great, and you always inspired us and made us, feel. I mean, it was kind of like we were talking about that Ken Burns documentary. Every time you came on, we thought, wow, we got to get, really more into baseball and a deeper appreciation for it. Where do you think the game is at right now? I mean, they're sort of at a little bit of a crossroads. There are a lot of different issues. I don't know about the bigger bases. I'm not sure what that's going to do. If you're going to expedite the game and have it take place in a little less time, I don't think that's a big problem. If games were taking 3-4 hours, Yankees, Red Sox, you might be there overnight watching a ball game at Fenway and hanging from the Citgo sign by the time it was done. What do you think about these changes that have taken place in Major League Baseball?
I go into this season with an open mind, and I think the game is going to look more different this year than it has at any point in a long, long time, from last year to this year with all the changes they're implementing. But let's look at why they felt they needed to implement the changes. And as you alluded to, the product on the field in recent years, last 5 years, last 10 years, maybe even going back 15, 20 years, hasn't been what it once was. It hasn't been the game that we all fell in love with growing up and couldn't wait to watch on a nightly basis. And so the changes that have been made, they talk about time of game, which is important, but really pace of play more than time of game to me is important. People want action.
Yeah.
And walks and strikeouts just bog the game down. They bog a broadcast down. They don't make it fun to watch or listen to or to go out to a ballpark. So I think the changes they've implemented, you're going to see more stolen bases. People like stolen bases. With the shift rules being you're not entirely eliminating shifts. You're still going to see infielders swung around way up the middle. They just have to have two on each side of second base. You're still going to see a second baseman right next to second base for a left-handed pull hitter, and a shortstop right next to second base for a right-handed pull hitter. You might see an extra infielder coming in from the outfield at times even because they got to be on the infield dirt. Game's going to look different, But I think what you're going to see is the pace of play is going to be better. The ball is going to be in play more, which gives you a chance to see triples, which fans love, which gives you a chance to see great defense, which we haven't seen as much of in recent years because of the defensive positioning. Because they've been so spot on with the shifts, you haven't seen shortstops and second basemen having to range a long way to the left or right to make plays. So I think it's going to be a more entertaining game this year. I really do.
Well, and we've said this, it's one of my thoughts. You see such amazing defensive plays in Major League Baseball. It's a shame you don't get a chance to see more of them.
Yeah, you used
And
to.
when they're so few and far between because no balls are in play. When I was growing up as a baseball fan and then, selling souvenirs at Shea, we always hated it, these quick games because we didn't have enough time to unload, the latest edition of the yearbook and the other
You know,
souvenirs. Go ahead.
let me add one thing to that
Yeah.
on defense. Your first thought is about infield defense.
Yeah.
But what we've seen in recent years is outfielders throughout baseball are playing deeper than ever. And the idea is let's cut
Right.
off doubles and triples. And because of that, you're not seeing as many great plays in the outfield, even not as many
Right.
balls to the gap for doubles and triples. There's even been talk, and this wasn't implemented, but there has been talk at the highest levels of baseball about restricting how deep outfielders can play. Almost, like literally putting a line in the outfield that you can only be
That's weird.
300 feet or 250
Yeah.
feet away from the plate. So you're going to have outfielders going back maybe to make more great plays behind them. You're going to see more doubles and triples, all stuff that makes the game more exciting.
See, but that's where I have a problem. I mean, and we talked with Tommy Hutton a little bit about this. He was also in favor of eliminating the shift, but I'm thinking you can't legislate, defense. If it's up to the hitter then to take advantage of the fact that these defenses are aligning in such outrageously biased positions. And to tell outfielders they can't play deep. I don't know. I mean, that seems like it's contrary to what the game is all
And
about.
that's been discussed. Obviously, hasn't been implemented, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it's because a lot of people agree with you on that, Defo. But it
Or even
shows
with
you
the
that
infield, one side or the other. I mean, if the guy
yeah.
can't hit it to the left side, well, why should I stand over there? I mean, it doesn't make
I don't
sense.
like penalizing teams for doing their homework and being smart
yeah.
and knowing
Yeah.
where this guy hits the ball the majority of the time. I agree with you on that. I've always felt like I'm good for rule changes that can improve the game, but let's not change the way the game is managed. Let's not change. I don't like the 3-batter minimum, for example. If you
Yeah.
want to go lefty, righty, lefty, every other hitter, you should be able to do that and take the risk that's associated with that.
Right.
So I agree with you in not wanting to legislate being smart out of the game,
Right.
but that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and I was going to say, I mean, I would go to Shane to work a game, and it would be like Bob Gibson against Seaver, and one guy would strike out 19, and you would say, "Man, that is really something. I witnessed something great tonight." But it wasn't happening every night to both teams.
Exactly.
So it was unusual. I mean, it had to be tough calling all of these strikeouts, and especially we were sympathizing with your plight. I mean, the way you brilliantly brought a vibe to those Marlins broadcasts when there was zero crowd noise for the home games. Having called a bunch of Hurricane games in some very cold weather when I was at Darklight Stadium there, or Marklight Stadium, now named for A-Rod. And there would be like only 4 people there because it was freezing out. And they were the guys that came to every game, and just the entire game, all they did when the opposite pitcher was on the mound was go, rag arm, and that's all you heard as the supporting
noise.
ambient sound. It couldn't be easy to generate enthusiasm like a guy would hit a home run and you'd hear the ball rattling around in the seats. You had to pretty much do everything yourself there. Did you think about bringing some fake crowd noise in? I mean, did you ever think about piping that in?
No, that was never discussed. But it is a challenge. You're right about that, Defo. And I always talk about kind of looking for the small victories along the way. And let's watch a young player hopefully get better over the course of a season. Better in May than he was in April. Better in August than he was in May. Let's look at a team that plays better in the second half than the first half, and on a daily basis. Why does this game tonight matter? Can we put a dent in the Mets' playoff plans with a victory here tonight? Hey, we've got Sandy going tomorrow night, whatever it may be. There are always things to try to look forward to.
Yeah.
But in general, you're right. It's not like going to the ballpark as the voice of the New York Yankees where you expect to win every single night.
It is fine. Unfortunately, the last part gets drowned out when the ball is caught, like by the shortstop, outside the infield grass. Louie's got something for you, Glenn, and great having you on the show, by the way. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Well, Glenn, and we've talked with you for years until recently. We always talked to you at the beginning of the season, and you always, it's much like Eric Reed and Tommy, loaded us with positivity about the Marlins, even when we were never uber negative, but honest about some of the things they had done. You said, look, we'll see what happens, but they're trying to turn things around. We've seen that those things didn't get turned around. They turned around the pitching staff, and then the lineup went to garbage. So where are the Marlins now? And you are always pretty honest. I don't think that would change whether you work with or not with them, but where are they now? Because they've tried to bolster the lineup and the last couple of years, and the young arms all seem to get hurt. Where are you with the Marlins coming into this year? As the over-under, we always talk about last year, they win 69 games, yet it's about 75. So expectations are a little bit up around baseball. Where are you with the Marlins this season?
I'm realistic. I think it is the right place to start. And you just look at the division they're in. The Mets are as good, if not better, than the team that 101 games last year. The Braves are as good, if not better, than the team that 101 games last year. Those two teams finished 32 games ahead of the Marlins a season ago. The Phillies finished 18 games ahead of the Marlins, and they're clearly better than they were last season. So you start with that and say, barring a lot of things going unbelievably right for the Marlins and barring a lot of things going unbelievably wrong for at least one of those teams, this is a fourth-place team. And that's just being realistic going into this season. Can it be better than last year? No question. You've got a legitimate number one ace in Sandy Alcantara. We saw Jesus Luzardo make great strides over the course of last season. You think about what he could do if he can stay healthy and give you a full year. Edward Cabrera gave you things to be excited about. Can Trevor Rogers bounce back? You hope that he can do that. They added the veteran Johnny Cueto, though I'd rather see some of the young guys get a shot, quite honestly. The question is, can they score any runs? And when you talk about the optimism in the past, and look, they're building something. This is now year 6 for this ownership.
Yeah. The 5-year plan.
Going into 6 years since Stanton and Ozuna and Yelich were traded away, and 5 years since Real Muto was traded away. So it's not like they're just getting this thing started. It's not like wait till we start drafting our guys and get them to the big leagues because they've done that.
Yeah.
So they got to score more runs. They got to keep Jazz Chisholm on the field. If Jazz can stay healthy, and if you can really put it all together, for me, Jazz is a guy with unbelievable potential, unbelievable raw talent, but he still really hasn't done it fully at the big league level. There's a lot of sizzle there, no doubt, and people love him, and they love the chains, they love the swag, they love the attitude, but he hasn't put a full season together in the big leagues yet. Can he do that this year? If he can, great for the Marlins. Can Soler and Avi Garcia be the guys they have been at times in their careers in the past? They were both flops last year. Can they both boost this up? Look, if both those guys have really good years, both those guys hit 30 home runs, if Jazz has a full season, goes 40-40, this lineup, you brought in some guys who aren't going to strike out, going to get on base, make some things happen. This lineup could be better if a lot of things go well. Even in that scenario, though, is there anyone anywhere who realistically thinks this team can compete with the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies? And that's just in your division before you get to the Cardinals and the Padres and the Dodgers in the National League. Yeah. So you got to be realistic. You got to be realistic. And to me, they need to transform this offense. They need to do it by bringing in – they got to spend money on some legitimate, proven bats, not guys who've been pretty good every other year, not somebody who hit 40 home runs 5 years ago. You need to bring in run producers.
Yeah.
You need to bring in guys who are going to hit doubles and home runs and who can put 3 runs on the board with one swing of the bat, because there's nothing worse than Sandy going out there and pitching a gem and losing 2-1. And how many times have we seen that over the years? This team was historic in losing 1-run games last year after having lost a ton of 1-run games the year before. And you say, if the offense is just a little bit better, you flip those games and you have a chance to be more competitive. But I don't think, quite honestly, they've done enough to improve the offense.
Tommy Hunt was saying yesterday, we had him on the show, it was like 41-run games.
Yeah.
And, that
which literally goes back 40, 50 years.
Yeah. That was
Probably
unbelievable.
last
Yeah,
time
to
we won one game.
1975. That was the last time. So obviously in the mix, but unfortunately not with the goods to close these games out. Don Mattingly leaves. Schumacher comes in. And one more thing. I mean, we thought. I mean, we were screaming for years. We got to get rid of Laria. We got to get rid of Sampson. They're evil. All right, and perhaps they were. I mean, still one of the most shrewd business deals ever was this Ponzi scheme they ran where they put in like some Canadian guy's money, and he was down screaming at Gulfstream Park, "I want my money back!" As they were in court winning, and they ended up with the franchise that they sold for like over $1 billion. I mean, not that many years down the road to justify this kind of, gargantuan profit they made on their investment, if there even was an investment. So we're screaming for years, Glenn, about, hey, we got to get rid of these guys. And then Jeter comes in, and we're thinking, oh, great, man, a guy that's all about winning. That era fell flat. And so, I mean, is there something inherently wrong, at the very top of the organization that's going to always inhibit any chance they have? I mean, we haven't heard that from Bruce Sherman, that I am going to spend some money and get a guy in here that can pop 40 of them out of the park this year.
Right. And they'll tell you, look, we're spending more money this year than we have in the past. And that's true. But have they spent nearly enough to be competitive with the teams at the top of the division, let alone of the league and of Major League Baseball? And the answer is clearly no from where you start. This team's better than it was last year, but you don't operate in a vacuum because other teams are better too. And you started at such a disadvantage. So even though you're going to be better, what does that mean? To me, a lot of things would have to go right for this to be a 500 team even this year.
Oh, wow.
They won 69 games last year. Can you win 70, 75? Yeah, I think that's realistic, but a lot has to go right. Now, one thing they have going for them, and this is a key point with the new balanced schedule this year, instead of playing the top three dogs in the division 19 times each, you play them 13 times each. So it's 18 fewer games against the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies. Now you're playing some other good teams out there you wouldn't have played otherwise. You're playing the Astros, you're playing the Yankees, you're playing the Blue Jays, good teams in the American League you wouldn't have played. But it's tough. And, I really feel as though Bruce Sherman came in here with all the best of intentions. In my very limited interactions with him, he seems like a really good guy who wants to win. But I think when you're a first-time owner, you need to surround yourself at the highest level of your organization with very experienced people on the baseball side and on the business side. And they had some of those in place when they came in. They ran them out. They brought in a lot of people who, frankly, have never worked in baseball before, who have never worked at the level they're working at. And I'm not just talking about Kim Ng being a first-time general manager. And look, she's got a great resume in the game. There's no question about that. But you look on the business side, people who haven't worked in baseball or at senior levels before making decisions in marketing and sales and PR, things like that. I think Bruce Sherman needs some better advice around him. And to his credit, let's point this out. He brought Jeff Conine in, Jeff Conine back to be his special assistant. And I'm going to tell you exactly why he did that, because he's spoken about this to some people. He understood what he didn't know on the baseball side. He knew he could sit down with his general manager and have her or her lieutenants tell him things, and he wasn't entirely sure what they were talking about. To his credit, he said, I need somebody to be my baseball whisperer to me, to tell me what I need to know and what I should be thinking about some of this stuff. So kudos to him for bringing Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin, back. Now, he had Jeff Conine and Jack McKeon and Andre Dawson and Tony Perez. They ran those guys out initially. But he needs people like that on the business side as well. Sales, marketing, public relations, because they're really struggling.
It's a rough go. Glenn, we love you, man. Hey, we'll have to do this throughout the season. I hope you're, amenable to a few more appearances here on the show. It was great having you on, my friend.
Would love to. I always love talking with you guys because you talk about me loving baseball, being a baseball guy. I know you guys, unlike many in this market, love baseball. You got a long history with this sport, and I love talking with you.
You're a great American. Glenn Geffner, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Glenn Geffner with us here on the show.